agenda behind everything they supposedly fact-check. The New York Post headline got it right in a recent headline exclaiming, Facebook admits the truth. Fact checks are really just lefty opinion. Now, of course, they're referring to a recent lawsuit by former ABC News correspondent John Stossel, who brought suit against Facebook because they flagged a pair of climate change videos that they disapproved of. Now, these videos didn't even question whether climate change was real, but still, Facebook didn't like the tone or how it was lacking context. Apparently, if you don't bow at the Greta Thunberg altar to climate change, then you're out of luck. I want to play a clip from John Stossel talking about this bias on Facebook. Have a look.
I've reported that Facebook censored me. Now I've learned that Facebook also censors a bunch of people who report on science.
Please welcome Michael Schellenberger.
People like an environmentalist who Time magazine listed among heroes of the environment. That's Michael Schellenberger.
You're going to need a lot more clean energy.
Facebook also censors
a man named one of the world's most influential people of the 21st century.
That's statistician and environmentalist Bjorn Lomborg. And they censor science writer and
New York Times contributing columnist John Tierney.
They accuse all of us of spreading misinformation. But really,
the people guilty of spreading misinformation are Facebook and its fact checkers.
To do the fact checking, Facebook partners with groups like these, all of them approved by something called the Poynter Institute. It calls itself a global leader in journalism and claims it has
a commitment to nonpartisanship and fairness.
But they're hardly nonpartisan. Just look at their website. Their eagerness to honor left-leaning reporters and their push to decolonize the media and change language shows their leftist bias. Poynter once even apologized after it tried to blacklist conservative news sites. Yet absurdly, this is who Facebook partners with to certify who will censor all of us.
Well, let's discuss this further with Jon Willis, founder and CEO of FreeSpace Social. John, great to have you back on the show, sir.
Thanks for having me. Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas to you, and definitely not happy holidays, by the way, just so we're clear on that.
Nope.
Hey, so what's behind all of this censorship on Facebook? Because I got to tell you, John, it's easy to say it's all about an agenda, obviously, but there's a major financial component here as well, because the less visibility, for these posts means less clicks, which means less revenue for those that are posting it. Your thoughts on that?
Well, you know, there's no greater feeling than feeling vindicated for everything I've been telling people for the last 2 years, that these fact checkers are nothing more than just biased left-wing people hired by Facebook to really limit information and information getting out that doesn't fit the narrative that big tech or the government or anyone else wants to really get out there. And we've seen it time and time again. I mean, it's not just with climate change, you know, with the Green New Deal and such, but we've seen it with all the COVID stuff that came out last year, you know, the doctors that they completely silenced. You know, you post any video of any doctor speaking out against Dr. Fauci or any COVID treatment, including ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine, you were immediately fact-checked and you were banned. Even Project Veritas, some of the videos that they put out exposing some very clear things that the drug companies were doing, fact checkers immediately came in, like Snopes or some of the other uses, and Facebook used that as an excuse to literally silence hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of just regular users. I'm not even talking about influencers or content creators, just regular users that are trying to share information out there.
Well, John, I want to talk about this because here's how Facebook describes these so-called fact checkers. I mean, Facebook is in essence lying, everybody. Let me read it to you. It's right from their website. Quote, Facebook's fact-checking partners all go through a rigorous certification process with the Nonpartisan International Fact-Checking Network. As a subsidiary of the journalism research organization Poynter Institute, the IFCN is dedicated to bringing fact-checkers together worldwide. All fact-checking partners follow IFCN's Code of Principles, a series of commitments they must adhere to in order to promote excellence in fact-checking. And here's the list: nonpartisanship and fairness, transparency of sources, transparency of funding and organization, come back to that, transparency of methodology, open and honest corrections policy. So hold on, John, maybe someone should actually fact-check that statement, because that is a bold-faced lie.
As President Biden has often said, hey man, That's a load of malarkey. I mean, when you actually read that lawyer-written statement from Facebook, I think that was Facebook. Yeah. I mean, it's just a load of garbage. They have a real problem with truth, like actual truth. I'm not stuff that they identify as truth.
Well, why is that? Are they afraid, John? Are they afraid?
Fact.
Are they afraid of the truth? What, you know, as Jack Nicholson once said in A Few Good Men. I mean, are they? Why are they afraid of the truth?
Because they can't handle that the actual truth goes against the narrative, and that actual truth can affect the power that they are trying to usurp from not only the American people, but from everyone around the world, whether it's in Australia, whether it's in the UK or Europe or wherever it is. This power that they have been able to gain through mass information control has really gotten to their heads. And now what we're seeing is, as the truth comes out, as facts actually come out and show that they are nothing but a bunch of frauds, that affects their power. Here's my problem, though, is that they've never been held accountable. I mean, look at all the people that could have been saved through alternative medical treatments, but because it didn't fit what Dr. Fauci, Saint Fauci, has put out there, people weren't able to get treatments that their doctors felt that they should have received. And it's information like that, or disinformation, that has been put out by big tech and controlled by big tech, that has literally cost the lives of everyday Americans.
Well, I was just about to say.
And that's very, very scary. And people need to understand just how much power big tech actually has on our daily life. And if you let me real quick, we just put out an op-ed in the Washington Times the other day that talks about how social media loves ruling our lives. They absolutely thrive on ruling every single aspect of our life and controlling what we think, say, and do.
Yeah, I'm glad you made that point about like ivermectin and some of these treatments, because it's costing lives. They big tech, literally have blood on their hands. And it's interesting because every time we say, ooh, blood on their hands, ooh, everybody's like, oh, they have a conniption every time we say that. But the truth of the matter is that the liberals said that all the time about Trump. You know, he's got blood on his hands for this. He's got blood on his hands for that. He was responsible for, global warming and all of that. But I am curious, John, how can the consumer fight back against big tech? I mean, there's a lot of parents out there, a lot of just regular folks just saying, what do I do? This feels like too much of a behemoth to deal with. What's the strategy?
Leave them. Leave big tech. There's plenty of alternatives out there, including our platform, FreeSpace Social, that they can go to where they can still connect with their friends and family and their loved ones. They can join groups. They can pass information without the fear of being censored or fact checked. People ask me, why don't you do fact checking on your site? I said 2 reasons. I believe people are grown up enough to figure out what's true and what's not true and have the ability to research it for themselves. And number 2, I don't want to pay for it. That crap's expensive, and I just don't want to pay for it. And so, if you really want to get away from big tech, turn them off. And that's what they're fearing. They're fearing this great awakening from the general public, where they're realizing that, hey, these tech overlords that have controlled our lives for well over a decade, they're now starting to shake in their boots and realize that they're losing their power. That's why Jack Dorsey stepped down. That's why his new CEO is very outspoken at Twitter, saying that we need to get past the First Amendment. That type of talk right there is the same type of fascistic talk that we saw in the 1930s. Mm-hmm. And you can't talk about that anymore because it's not politically correct. But what we're seeing politically right now is no different than what we saw back in the 1930s in Western Europe as well as in Eastern Europe.
Yeah, John, I really appreciate your time. You're absolutely right. Thanks so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Good talking to you.
Yeah, good talking to you, John. And look, let me just be clear. And I know I've gotten dinged all the time if I bring up 1930s Germany. I'm going to bring it up again. 1930s Germany. No one's talking about the Jews. No one's talking about the Holocaust. No one's talking about the atrocities there. We're talking about the actual tactics that were used in 1930s Germany. Nothing wrong to talk about it. Back in a moment.